The alcohol thing is probably one of the most common things I feel like that kills people. I mean, I see it in the air every day, and the stories when I ask people
Really?
how much they, or when, do you drink alcohol? And they'll say no, but then you have to rephrase it. You have to say, because to some people, beer is not alcohol. It's liquor. And I'm like, listen, your liver has no idea whether or not it's Jack Daniels or Natty Light. It's got no idea. And then you ask them, do you drink? Oh, occasionally. And then you're like, well, okay, what's occasionally? I don't know, 3 or 4 a day. Then that's occasionally. It's all relative to people,
right?
Because you don't know what people are told. I mean, they see their dad do it, other people do it. But
Thanks, Dad.
I've seen 29-year-old come in and die of acute alcoholic hepatitis.
Jeez, dude.
32-year-old, 35-year-old, 36-year-old.
It's
People
poison.
that come in, it's poison. It is 100% poison.
Welcome back. This is my first time introducing the show. I'll probably take the reins from here on in. No, I'll do the introduction because today's guest is a friend of mine, Dr. Travis Smith. So Travis has just turned 40, but an ER doctor.
Smartest man in the room right now.
That's not hard.
You would have fooled me with the 40.
You are a teacher for LECOM Medical School. He's on Twitter, has a bunch of followers on Twitter answering medical questions. But the man is passionate about medicine, knows everything about everything, and loves to talk about it. He's not just doing it for a paycheck. He's very passionate and into the longevity stuff now. Big fan of someone who I listen to a lot. You wouldn't think so by looking at me, but he's a big fan of Peter Attia. Been watching a bunch of stuff on him. So Travis is now in the longevity sector of medicine. And it's going to make people live to 100 and be mobile.
Been hearing a lot more of
that
word,
welcome,
longevity. Yes, thank you for coming in, Dr. Travis.
Yeah, of course.
By the way, wasn't there a Dr. Travis that was The Bachelor?
There was, yep.
I played golf with him one time.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was like right after he was The Bachelor. It was like Colonial.
Was he good?
Good dude, yeah.
Any
I
stories?
don't remember. I don't.
I know you weren't asking golf stories.
He's an ER doctor too.
Yeah. But you're probably more of if you're doing TV.
Yeah.
How much ER doctoring can you be doing?
Probably little to none.
Yeah.
He might work a shift a month, possibly.
I got a buddy that's an ER doc in Chicago. He'll send me some of the nastiest pics, dude. I mean,
Travis
people coming in at night. Oh, God.
So that's basically the intro, right?
Fun to have every now and then.
Yeah.
And you go into the ER room, you're doing like the Thursday, Friday, Saturday night shifts. You got all the freaks coming in with shit stuck in their anus.
How long have you been? Yeah. How long have you been in Jacksonville?
I moved here in 2009. I did residency at UF.
Okay.
Good place to train.
Yeah.
Gators.
Tons of stuff.
That's right.
Shands?
I'm at Shands, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great program.
They, Jacksonville gets a lot of knife and gun clubs, so you see a lot of trauma.
Really?
Good place for that stuff. And, I'm less of a fan of that now. I mean, you see it, and it's, exciting in the beginning. But I like more the medicine stuff, and now I've gotten really into the longevity game. But tons of stories, exciting stuff.
I keep hearing that word a lot now, longevity. I played with a couple guys the other week at Pablo, and they were talking about longevity. They're probably paying a guy like you to
live till they're
out.
Him or his partner, Ryan. Yeah, he has a partner in it. But it makes, dude, if you can afford it. So
why don't you explain to us a little bit about...
Explain to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel this is going to be an educational episode here. We were talking before we started recording earlier about some of the training that you've been doing with Pricey and how that relates to, getting stronger in golf. Is that some your focus now, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all kind of works together. And believe it or not, golf is a very good activity. You can measure, I got...
You couldn't find a better lab rat than Pricey to do this on?
Yeah, we got to start from the bottom.
He's a good one to do. I get to pick on him when there's a lot of red on the screen.
Okay.
I'm the control. He's the
control. But when you golf, I mean, everyone thinks, hey, golf isn't a exercise-wise. I mean, you get really good activity. Your heart rate goes up high. That's kind of like the zone 2. It kind of mimics if you were to go out on a jog or like work out in the gym.
Zone 2 is what, like 76 to 120-ish?
It's probably like everyone's a little bit different on what their zone 2 is depending on your
percentage-wise. Yeah.
But it's probably, I would say, an average, above 100, 100 to 120-ish. That's probably for our age group. And it gets you good activity. You burn tons of calories playing golf.
Speaking of that,
even if you're used, like you hear, is this a myth? Like, if you walk every day, it doesn't really do anything.
No, but I've heard, there's people that live in. There's been a couple of people on Rogan, and these different doctors. He has a lot of wide range people in there. But one person said, if you go and run for an hour and then you sit at a desk for 8 hours, no good. The constant movement kills off cancer cells, all this bad stuff is what this theory was, right? Then I started thinking about it. How many people do we know that are pro golfers, pro caddies, or associated with walking? Tons. And how many people get cancer? A lot. In the golf world, no one gets cancer. There are a very few, but hardly anyone compared to the rest of the world.
I've never heard this take before.
But don't you think about all the players? There's been a few people die of cancer, but not many relatively to the regular population because golfers are moving.
And you'd think that skin cancer is a bigger thing from a golfer, but that much vitamin D you're getting from the sun every single day. I mean, that's.
I just think golfers are moving who are playing professional golf or full-time amateur golf 6 days a week. You're moving for 6 hours. You don't sit down. 5 hours to play, hour to warm up. In the gym before. You're moving for 8 hours. It's like, imagine doing a full F45. You go hard for 45 minutes, but then you sit at a desk and you don't move.
And the trade-off is you have a golfer's body the rest of your life, and you'll never have a six-pack.
You can do both. You'll tell you can
that's
do
just diet.
Abs are made in the kitchen. That's what
right.
they say.
That's all diet.
You were saying about
that's all diet.
But you were saying about at that range, it makes sense that hardly any golfers get sick.
Well, and if you take that, it's a good hypothesis. Some smart person could go and look up and check data on that stuff. But definitely the movement all the time is really important. Obesity is associated with like 25 different cancers.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's like third in line, with smoking being number one. But there's inherited forms. But obesity, by far is probably the most preventable way to prevent cancer. And you look at, we were just talking about it earlier, the average male in 1970 weighed about 165, 170 pounds. Now it's like 200.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
there is so much shit in our food. We are the problem too, but what's in our food is...
Well, it's all processed junk. And, I think all this started, you talk about not conspiracies, but, the food market definitely has a play into this because they demonized fat probably in the 90s. And they went from everything's fat-free, and what do they substitute with? Added sugar and carbs. And
that's the sugar industry. They're very powerful on walls and in Washington, D.C., lobbyists. That's like, so Michelle Obama, I think I've talked about this before, Michelle Obama, when she became the first lady, her thing, which was awesome, was like, I'm going to kill childhood obesity. Not kill it, but get rid of it. So it was like, eat right, eat right. Then her message, by the second year, there was nothing about diet. Her thing completely changed to get fit, run, because they're getting paid by the sugar industry.
Yeah,
it's like that cesspool. Like, vote for Vivek Ramaswamy. But I'm serious.
By the way, did you see those forehands he was ripping the other day?
The guy's the man.
Athlete?
I'm in love.
I mean,
he's a rapper. He's an athlete.
He needs to.
It did have the.
He's got to slow down on the rapping. That's just a bit.
I haven't heard the rapping.
It doesn't work.
It was good.
It's fine, but like, let's just.
It was Iowa.
It's cool that you play tennis. I mean, that's it.
He was running a hedge fund, making tens of millions. I was just listening to another podcast he was on with Jordan Peterson. He wanted to leave to go to study law. Like, the guy's an animal. He ended up running one fund.
Travis, I know most of your stuff is case to case. Like with Aaron's going to be different than me. But if you like longevity, is waking up early important? Is drinking enough water important? Like, what are the things that you see that are just the easy things to help?
Pillars. So
how much red wine can I have at night?
0. So here's, and I'll get onto that too. So
Travis does drink. It's not like he's a non-drinker, but he's very adamant that. And look, it makes sense. You wear this Whoop.
Yeah.
It's very consistent with when you drink and the score you get.
I'll tell you how to hijack the system too. So, the longevity medicine thing, and I think really Peter Attia is kind of the guy who made it a big staple. The guy's probably one of the smartest guys I've ever listened to. But he, breaks it down into, pillars of health. And, the longevity game that we're in, because really you want your health span to kind of marry your lifespan, right? You know, you want to, if you live to 100, you want to be able to be fully functional, and you want your health span to just decline there. You don't want it to start declining at 60, and then by 70, you know, you need help doing things, and by 80, you're in a nursing home, and you live the last 10 years of your life, and you can't do anything. You need people helping you, wiping your bottom, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no thanks.
And, you know, there's ways to prevent that. I mean, obviously there's one-offs where there's circumstances where you dealt a bad card. But, you know, that's the exception, not the rule.
How many of these ways do you treat in a pill form?
There are some things. So I'll talk about pillars. So one of them is sleep.
Yeah.
One of them is exercise.
Okay.
You know, one of them is a big one is mental health too. You need to be you need to have, you know, friends around doing stuff that you like doing. You know, because doing
community.
all this stuff, community. You know, one
so
of them,
Vivek talks about
molecules, and that would be medicines, because there's tons of medicines now that can extend lifespan, and, you know, make you healthier. You know, we'll talk about. I mean, I take rapamycin, which, you know, I think is probably the best longevity medication. Rapamycin.
So the
It's
thing I
generic
love
sirolimus.
about Peter Attia, and I've never really spoken to you about this, is he's successful inside the medicine world and outside the medicine world. So not to say that the medicine world or the doctor world is corrupt, but he's both. And a lot of his stuff has nothing to do with pills. Rapamycin's one. It's got nothing to do with selling pharmaceuticals. I feel like the analogy would be, I have local honey. My neighbor has a beehive, so I take the local honey, and I'm always Googling it, like, does it help you? And the doctors will tell you no, because what's a $1 billion industry? Allergy pills, right? It should be like, you should try that, but if it doesn't work, then you use an allergy pill. It's like, no, you're wasting your time. And I feel like the pharmaceutical industry, you know, you probably disagree with me here, they pay for a lot of the university courses. They're putting their stuff in there. So it's like, there's got to be pills to be bought.
They teach you pills to treat diseases.
It's
right?
ridiculous.
And, you know, I'm a DO, so I'm an osteopathic physician. So I went to LECOM in Bradenton. We're actually starting the first medical school at JU in 2 years. Huge thing for the city.
It's awesome.
You know, it's the preventative game, right? And so I want to take a 30-year-old and a 20-year-old, and I have some patients who are in their 20s and some in their 30s. I want to take the people who have the longest runway and show them what behaviors lead to disease. The longer you can prevent a chronic disease, the longer you'll live. Mm-hmm. So you give, you know, an 80-year-old, you know, they develop diabetes and high blood pressure and things like that too, and they'll live longer. But if you have diabetes at 40 or hypertension at 40, your lifespan is going to be shorter.
Yeah.
You know, and so the goal is to do this, you know, all this up front in your 30s and 40s and know how to prevent these things. You know, we talked about the pillars, you know, diet is one.
If you're not a drinker, does that
helps
matter?
big time.
Yeah. I mean, zero alcohol is better than any alcohol. And we talked, and you know, Price and I have talked about this before, but probably about early 2000s, there was a guy named David Sinclair. He gets a lot of flack online, you know, because he's, you know, he pushes some, you know, interesting things. The guy's very smart. He has a longevity lab in Harvard. I mean, so the guy's no slouch.
Yeah.
But him and his lab, they discovered in yeast there was 13 molecules that extended lifespan in yeast, and one of them was resveratrol, which is found in red wine. And so it was like, oh, the French paradox. You could look at wine sales at that time; they skyrocketed. So everyone's like, hey, a glass of wine a day is helpful. You know, put your Whoop on and see what alcohol does to your HRV, your heart rate variability, and your recovery. I mean, it kills it. So the reason why is alcohol activates your sympathetic system. It lasts for about 6 hours. So your heart rate's going to go from, you know, if your resting heart rate's 55, it might go to 65. Mm-hmm. You have 2 drinks, it might go to 70.
Do you think that
lasts for 6 hours after you have it? And nighttime is when your parasympathetic system is supposed to be like on point. It helps you sleep better. You get better REM, non-REM. Your blood pressure's lower, so it gives your, you know,
cleans
blood
out the
vessels a break.
garbage, essentially.
But do you think that you can control your HRV?
The activities that you do, you can improve your HRV. There's certain ways you can hurt it, but so if you want to have you know some alcohol, the best time to do it is during the day. What do they call it? A darty, not a party, but have a drink or two in the afternoon. I'm not saying it's healthy, but it's better because
sleep
best
better.
time
the
to do
alcohol
it.
will wear off by the time you go to sleep.
Hear that, all
So
you day drinkers?
That's the life hack. And
Founders all day IPA.
What about what
That's
is
a good one.
what has the COVID vaccine done for your longevity?
Tough to say because there's not
Too
really
early?
any longevity trials. I will say, I tell Pricey about this. In the beginning when all this stuff, and Pricey knows my political views. I'm very I'm not apolitical, but I vote a certain way, and
But you stick to what you know, the
I stick to
science
what-
and the
We don't,
evidence you
Pricey.
have.
What are your political views? We don't know. I'm
Well,
kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm
Hard read.
independent. Well, you guys see, I'm independent. I hate them both.
There we go.
but
They're both the same thing.
Yeah.
I lived like COVID in the ER, and it was, it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Every day I went into that place.
Ugh.
It was like a war zone, seeing all these people on ventilators. Most patients you ever seen, double our ER volume.
You rarely saw video of that, and I was curious, what do these people look like?
I would say a large majority of them are obese.
Yeah.
But
What about age, demographic? I mean, we glossed over a lot of that because people were dying. You have to have that sympathetic feeling to another human being, but also kind of paying the price of being this age group, which you can't help, and then your physical
some
condition.
politicians told us it was racist. Remember that?
Yeah.
This-
What, you look at
Well,
obese is your BMI is 30 or more, right? And there's tons of people who might look normal to us, but they're obese,
Yeah.
right? And the overweight not as affected, but I think obesity was outside of age. Obesity was one of the biggest factors in the people who died.
Mhm.
Certainly, I saw people, not as much, who were healthy and needed to get admitted, and they would do fine, but they would need to go on oxygen and things like that. But I can tell you, I've been practicing medicine for 14 years. I have not ever admitted one person with flu, pneumonia, not one time. Can't remember ever doing it. But, a 35-year-old, a 25-year-old with COVID pneumonia, I was doing that regularly. They would get discharged. They wouldn't die.
Mhm.
The people who were dying were, the big obese people or the elderly person, 65, 70 with some comorbidities. Just as you age, your immune system just isn't as good. It's not as robust. And so they get, hit with more stuff. So in the beginning when it was Delta, it was like, what the heck is this? I still have a personal belief that this was, a lab-made thing. This was not something that was found in a wet market that
Isn't
they tried
that
to push.
facts
The
now?
messaging was so terrible, and it set back medicine.
It felt like
a long time.
felt
Well,
like you were
politicians
watching a
got in the
playbook.
way.
It was a playbook, but
there
when
was
they-
an election that year. If it was the year before, I think it gets handled not completely different, but differently.
They tried to launch it the year before.
But it's not an election year, so that's if it would have been here. They would have been more, coming across the aisle and trying to work it out because there was an election in November and it was freaking March. It was like let's work this shit out. It's crazy.
And when the vaccine came out, it with Delta, we're talking apples to oranges, I think, with Delta and Omicron, because with Delta, the vaccine definitely 100% prevented it. I would say out of 100 people I would admit to the hospital, maybe one of them were unvaccinated. This was Delta, so different ball game. Omicron, way less mortality. You would get sick. I've had COVID twice, both times, and I've been vaccinated a bunch of times, but I have a higher risk of getting it. And in the beginning, we had no idea what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
And so I think everyone's pushing it, right? And now you can actually, I think, have the conversation with people. It's
I think Delta really scared a lot of people that were on the line about getting vaxxed.
But you can understand, like, this is the part I hate when people are one side or the other. You can understand why the vaccine was created quickly, because what happens if this thing kept escalating? You didn't know what was going to happen. It's easy to look back. Hindsight's always 20/20. But so people go, the vaccine was it had to be rushed, because what happens if this just kept going and then we just kept
It's
chipping
also
away?
the way the media reports this stuff. You go back now and look
But
at
the
clips
kids
of like
part-
Don Lemon telling you
I can't
you're
even-
the
Oh, of
problem.
course, but it's-
what a
hold on.
special place in hell
But as soon
there
as-
is for
and
that
that's
guy.
and that's just unfortunate, because it mixes politics and medicine. And here's the thing about medicine: you have to have this strong convictions loosely held, because in medicine things change, and you have to be able to pivot when you get new data in. And they were making stuff sound concrete, like it was never going to change. And that's what I think really hurt the messaging.
Because there was an election.
Because there was an election. That's what media does, and that's why I can't stand watching like news. Because especially when they talk about health.
But as
stuff,
soon as they realized that it didn't stop the spread, that's when the kids should not have been getting vaccinated. If the kids don't spread it, or they do continue to spread it, they don't need shit in their body that they don't need. That's the part that it's like not recommended for kids to do it. But I think that message could have come out a lot earlier. That's all I'll say. For the kids, like adults, we can take it. It's fine. It's not. Who knows what it's doing? Whether it's the COVID or it's the vaccine that's doing it. I feel like there's enough data. If it was COVID, we'd know, because whenever you go to hospital, have you had COVID in the last 6 months? Have you had the vaccine? So every person has a profile of vaccinated, unvaccinated, COVID, not COVID. So of all this stuff that's going on with LeBron's kids, and I know it does happen. If it was found out that tons of these people were unvaccinated and had COVID, we'd know about it. This is COVID that's causing this. But because you don't hear about it, doesn't support the argument, who knows what's causing it? I don't know if that rate's gone up. There's no data. It's crazy there's no data on this stuff coming out. Now,
there's tons of data. The problem is it's data overload. I mean, you type in COVID, there's like what do you believe? What do you read? Who do you trust? I mean, it's hard for even me that it's just like, it's to the point where like I don't even want to talk about COVID.
We've been hearing about
a
bunch of like young, like LeBron's son, but there was a kid in Birmingham that passed away last week. You're hearing about these athletes that are just dropping dead at very young ages.
So I will say, I remember.
Well, hold on, let me finish. Is it being more reported and it's
being
just
more
tied
reported.
in,
I think
is
it's one
just
of those
a
things.
natural thing? Like
it's a natural. If you look at fatalities for young athletes, I mean, there was reports in 2010. Oh, there's a spike. Why is there a spike? A lot of it's reporting, the internet. But basketball athletes have a higher incidence of COVID, and there's a couple other, electrical conduction problems that young athletes get, and they get them when they're doing these high intensity workouts, and like playing basketball. So hokum is a very common, heritable cause of condition that can make you collapse and die. It's
hokum?
Yeah, hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy. And if I were to bet what happened,
I used to have I had tachycardia, and then I had atrial flutter. I've had two ablations for those, and then I had the COVID vaccine.
What's
that's
HIV
basically
stand for?
another heart surgeany.
What does HIV stand for again?
Henry IV.
Heart rate variance.
Heart rate variability. Yeah.
I did. Do you know anything about heart math? Is that something you've explored?
Mm-mm.
The Whoop, a lot of those devices
It's an app on your phone.
that readout on. It's the measure of the wavelength between your brain and your heart, and how you can sync those up and make yourself a more present, coherent human being.
Alpha Brain.
It's a new app. You just stare at your face on the phone, and it tells you what your real age is.
What?
Is that what you're talking about?
Huh?
Well, no.
They do have apps that can do that.
No, but also before COVID, I remember all the time, if you look for it, there'd be a kid or two every year die because it's August and it's in the South and people are getting ready to have their first college game at Georgia Southern or UF. So there's always before, but I think I'm not on either side, but definitely every time something happens now, it's on the news.
Yeah. You go to a Jaguars practice and how hot it is, you're like, if I was on that field, I'd die.
But whether it's Fox or CNN or Independent Media, which these things are the worst clickbait, they know people are going to rush to it. Both sides.
Travis, how long you been playing golf?
That's what happens.
Since I was about 10 or 11.
So a while.
Travis is good.
Is it like it's not an escape from work for you, or is it kind of, it's like you love it?
I love it.
Since you were 10.
I love, since I've been doing it, I mean, one, it's a good active sport. And I just love playing the game. It's like, you go out and play, you could play crappy. All 18 holes, the last shot, it's perfect. You just that feeling. It's that there's definitely like a dopamine, rush from playing it.
Where's the home course?
Wherever.
He grew up at Innisbrook.
America's guest.
Yeah,
Innisbrook,
I worked at
really?
Innisbrook, grew up there, so played a lot of golf there. That's where our high school golf team's home course was. Not at Copperhead, but at they've changed
the island.
We played at the Island. Island's a tough course.
Yeah, it is. That place is tight.
But it used to be called Hawks Run, which is like half of it was old Copperhead and
dude, what's
Eagles
it
Nest.
like growing up over there? That place sucks. that little strip of Tampa right there.
It's quiet. It's
You're
old.
close to everything.
So those billboards are all time on that road.
When things haven't changed,
vaginal tightening.
things haven't changed. Things haven't changed there.
No.
Since 1990 probably. Some of the roads have gotten wider.
It's basically like spring training is
the draw.
they got that's
the Phillies.
that area.
Dunedin. I was a bat boy for the Blue Jays.
Were you really?
Oh yeah, that was like when I went from 10 to 13.
Dude, that'd be pretty cool.
Oh
That
yeah.
park is hot. It
That's why I
has
saw that
zero shade.
That Bo Jackson, Beckett. I'm getting back into 1992. Sid Bream, huge Braves fan.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Baseball.
How old are you?
Back.
40.
That's right. Yeah, so
Big
exactly when we were kids, the Rays. I mean, none of that was there. It was
Rays
like if
didn't
you grew
exist.
up in Florida, you were a Braves fan.
Braves
100%.
fan.
Yeah.
Jeff Blauser, Mark Lemke, Sid
Jeff
Bream,
Blauser, wow.
Ron Gant, David Justice.
Ron Gant hit a freaking ball with apex at 20 feet and get out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
Just unbelievable.
Terry Pendleton.
Yep.
TP.
God, go for days. Who else? Otis Nixon.
Otis Nixon. Yeah, that guy. You want to talk about
Raphael
muscular-
Belly. Did you say Belliard? Did
Oh,
you say
Raphael
that?
Belly. No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Otis Nixon. So he played for the Blue Jays, and that guy. I mean, he was probably 3% body fat. I mean, the guy was a machine, like muscle. The guy was huge.
God loved crack
Fueled
too.
on crack.
Yes.
Okay.
Loved crack.
Yep. Yeah, he looks a lot older than stated age. That's what I would say right now. Unfortunate.
Yeah, those were the days. The Braves. It's fun to see them, just kicking ass again, though.
Mm-hmm.
The kids are into it. It's kind of. I'm glad this is happening now at the boy's age that he can appreciate it, and not 10 years ago where he was just had no clue.
Yeah, I want Liam to. He's into baseball and football, but I want to like show him Greg Maddux and be like, you don't need to.
Those
like,
stats pop up on my
Get
Instagram
nasty
all the time.
at the movement part, not the don't worry about velocity so much.
Maddox stats
He,
are insane.
He had like 25 games under 100 pitches one season.
There's only 300 batters
Something like
that ever saw a 3-0 count on Greg Maddux, and 115 of those were intentional walks.
Wow.
So yeah, the stats are insane. I remember, so I didn't know too much of the history, but caddying for Kirk, he would spit out some ones, and it's like watching the modern game. It's hard to even imagine.
Yeah, Kirk, he was contending last week.
Through
we
2
didn't talk
rounds,
a little
and
bit
he
of golf.
ended up,
Yeah, let's talk about last week real quick.
He ended up missing the
Olympia
Atlanta.
Fields got absolutely torched.
Dude,
That's a hard golf
it
course.
is,
I played
but
there in
just
May,
you
and it
throw
was brute.
Right?
It is, but you put anywhere in the Midwest in the summer is going
Yeah.
to get torched.
But
I
you
don't care
like-
how hard it is because it's not going. The greens
You
aren't
still
going
have
to
to
get
hit the
firm.
fairways.
So soft.
Right.
You still have-
hit
you
the
can't-
fair. Yeah, but these guys are hitting at 330. You hit the fairways.
You get
It
it
just
straight.
doesn't even. Correct.
It's like playing Augusta
But it's
in
still-
November. They got to.
But
I mean,
again, if those greens are firm,
It's a
it doesn't
different
happen
game.
because you're
Yeah.
like an inch in the rough. You
It's a
can't hold the
different game.
green.
I wanted to see. Some
There's only
carnage,
one
but-
separator in golf always, and it's never length.
It's
firm,
tough.
it's firm
It's
greens.
the time of the year for the playoffs. It just sucks because you can't run from the heat. It's hot everywhere. Like
All the
this,
storms,
this
too.
week in Atlanta. Those greens are going to be dartboards all week long.
There'll be a storm, yeah.
There'll be dartboards all week long.
But no, Kirk was crushing it, and then obviously I think everyone's whether it's written or unwritten goal is to win and make the Tour Championship.
Yeah.
Like Tour Championship means you're in every single event. You're in all 4 majors. It's basically the ultimate is to make the final 30, and then see what you can do from there. And he ended up finishing 32nd.
If
so
you're on,
who was
I'd
thirty-
be
if
disappointed.
you're on his bag, does he make it to the?
No, he probably finishes 50th.
Who was 31?
Sahith.
Sahith.
Theegala. And,
Sahith don't like it.
He's great. I think he made it last year as a rookie. But Brendan Todd broke a record last week.
What was it?
Did you see that?
No.
72 holes, 64 pars.
Wait, is that like a lot?
Good.
A lot. He had 6 bogeys and 2 birdies
Oh, that is a
for the week.
Oh, that sounds painful.
That's pretty.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You could only go around Olympic Fields with 6 bogeys. You think, oh, did you win? You finished well down. But only had 2 birdies. But I didn't see any of those scores coming.
Well, Hovland, that was one of the best 9 holes ever put together. I don't care how hard it is.
That's blackout. I don't care how easy it is. That's blackout. 28
to win by 1.
1-4, and it was a birdie.
Has he won? Is that the biggest event he's won?
That's a good. Yeah, I think it is.
No, he won. Well, okay, didn't he win at Jack's place?
I don't know.
I don't know, but forever he had never won inside the continental.
A FedEx Cup event is, I think, a playoff event's pretty big.
3.6 mil.
What happens now with Koepka not in the guaranteed spots?
Should I tell the story about Shay Knight?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to mention names because it's embarrassing.
You already
Sugar
said
Shay Knight.
Well, Shay's fine. That part's fine. But Shay was caddying for another player. Yeah. I won't mention the player. He's still on tour. Won last year, first win, and good player. And
he was caddying for him last year.
This is like 5 years ago, before Victor comes on, and the player's coach, Shay says, "Hey, I'm going to quit and go work for this young kid coming out of college named Victor Hovland." The player's coach said to him, "This is the biggest mistake you're ever going to make in your life."
Oh my God, I love that.
The player's coach?
I love that.
The ex-player, the other player who he's caddying for, who has not had the success, let's just say has not had the success Victor Hovland's had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is the biggest mistake you're ever making.
Jeez. Good insight by the teacher.
And this guy won.
Wrong.
And this guy won for the first time last year?
Yeah, we're not going to ever can look it up. But anyway, Shay Knight, well done. That's a great bag. And I don't know, I've never been with Victor, but Victor seems like a very easy bag. The guy's a legend.
That smile.
Easy to catch. Oh, has to have. I don't care. He can't
Shay Knight's had some tough bags too.
I've got to watch him play quite a bit, like in person, Victor, and he fucking thumps the ball. Like I know I say this a lot. It is a very heavy.
He would not have one enemy on earth.
Very heavy hit. No, probably not.
He's very likable.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably be rooting for the European team, to be honest. Like they just have.
We were looking at it yesterday. It looks like the bottom 6 for the USA could beat their top 6.
So what happens to Brooks? Do you think
Koepka's out now? Like he was in the whole time. Now he's not in the guaranteed 6. He'll get picked.
Yeah, I think so too.
I agree.
Yeah, I think
that's so petty.
Zach Johnson's going to pick the team that he thinks is going to win. I don't think it's going to be
correct.
No Glover.
Necessarily on how you played in January or February, or I think. Look, for these captains too, it's not like they want to make a controversial pick and lose.
It's their legacy.
That's like on their ass, and this is a big one for the United States. They've had a good run, but playing in Europe, they haven't had as good a success.
I really like Luke Donald too. That's why I'm going to pull for the Europeans. I like Zach, but like,
Koepka played in Europe for a while, didn't he?
Yeah.
At the beginning,
he did. They love him over there.
One thing I don't like about Koepka is he doesn't rep FSU enough. I went to FSU.
He reps it kind of hard.
I never see him rep.
Really?
No, not like.
I bet you he's given. That's the thing. I bet you he's given a lot of money to them and hasn't said a word about it.
Probably.
Yeah.
I didn't think people gave money back to Florida State.
Yeah, right. Aren't you guys leaving the conference? What's going on? Or nobody would take you, so you had to go back?
No, I think it's kind of legal because, with the rights to the television stuff.
Yeah.
And it would be a huge payout. I mean, we would have to pay out close to like maybe a quarter to even $500 million over a certain period of time. So I think we're banking on getting the SEC to take us, which I think they will.
No chance.
Do you
think they will?
Yeah, it'll be a good media thing that ESPN would do. Yeah,
you got to take the better
geographic wise. It would help.
The SEC would have to go get the Carolina schools too.
Yeah, I think there's word of doing that as well.
Wow.
But we can't stay in the ACC. Just FSU probably makes media rights and money half of what Alabama and the bigger schools get. I mean, how are you going to compete?
Right.
When you're getting 30 million, they're getting 70 million or whatever it is. I mean, it's hard to compete, and they have the tradition that they should be there.
Yeah.
So they need to.
Well,
change
this
something.
year they're there. I mean, that's the word on the street. You got
Heisman
hopeful and a top 10 team start the year. We'll see.
They can do it. Hopefully, it's a more of a. The game last year against LSU was good. I don't know if you guys watched it, but
yeah,
I was about to throw something through my TV when they fumbled it on, we could have scored, kicked a field goal, that would have sealed it. They fumble it. LSU goes down, scores, and then we block the PAT.
Yeah, I remember
it
that.
was unbelievable.
LSU is
I was a glass case of emotion.
Sexy pick this year to win it all.
I thought that LSU was going to be garbage last year.
Same.
And Florida State, I mean, I like Norvell. I think he's a program builder. He did it at Memphis, and he's taking the same template down to Tallahassee. All you need is a good quarterback.
We have 6 top 100 guys this year. All of them transfers.
See, that sucks, dude.
And
I hate that. One transfer, that's it.
Well,
they got to change some rules with NIL. This is terrible, dude.
Yeah,
I like picking off like Jared Verse, 0 stars when he came out of high school, right?
Yeah.
0 stars. I mean, that guy's going to be top 10 draft pick.
Yeah.
So it's like their freshman, sophomore year at school is an opportunity to get
showcase
on another program's radar.
Yeah. But you look at guys who go to Georgia. It's like all the 5 stars. Alabama, it's like, okay, you got a 4 or 5 star, he's not getting playing time. He wants to go somewhere and showcase.
Sure.
I did learn one rule.
Instead of
if someone
cap,
from like a smaller school,
cap.
like a JUCO or whatever, transfers to your school, they can't then transfer again.
Really?
Can't do it twice.
Well, I think college is inching towards becoming a professional sporting organization. I mean, it already is, but let's go ahead and drop the amateur
It's so hard because there's so
designation.
much money, and you understand they are the product.
Yeah.
So it's
the minor
It's
leagues.
a hard way to.
The NFL has a free
tough on
minor
those guys,
league
too.
program.
Those guys,
It's
their
crazy.
longevity is not good. Football
the
players.
NCAA?
Well, just football players in
Taking
general.
those hits.
That's why some of those guys retiring at. I think Miles Jack retiring at.
27.
What is he? 27
7 years in the
Good
league.
for him. You know,
got his money.
got his money. Now
I did read a quote though that was pretty funny. He's like, I like to do things. I might become like an electrician or plumber. How many months is it going, or weeks is it going to take him to go, oh fuck, this is the worst thing ever. I should have played one more year of football.
I mean, who knows?
It's got to be body. I mean, at his age, he's
But
pretty
who
young.
wants to be? What he's going to go from doing that to earning $80,000 a year being a.
I mean,
It ain't about it. There's
Randy Johnson.
he doesn't need the 80 grand. Hopefully, like anytime soon. I
The
would.
problem with electricians and stuff, like he doesn't understand. You got to deal with people. It's not just the wires and the cables.
Let him go
It's
have a
people.
hobby.
Did someone just
You
say
know what?
Randy
Maybe
Johnson?
Yeah,
become
Randy
a-
Johnson likes he takes photographs for the
NFL.
Oh,
That's
does he?
right.
Yeah, as a
That's
hobby.
great.
He
I
goes
don't
I
have-
see
you don't have
him
to
on
deal
the
with
Bally
people.
Sports app watching the Rays. He's like, I'm a tall boy and I drink short boys. Have you seen that?
No.
Yeah, it's some commercial that plays on because you can only watch the Rays on Bally Sports. That guy, talk about epic baseball cards from the early 90s.
Yeah.
And he was in Expo. Jacksonville Expo even.
Oh, was he?
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't he kill a
bird,
pigeon or something?
Well,
Yeah, not on
he had a
purpose.
Bird
seagull or
committed
something.
suicide.
Wasn't
on
like
the,
Tri-
on the baseball.
wasn't like Trip Eisenhower. This was an accident.
We love you, Trip.
It's one of the. If you're going to take a fastball from somebody, if you're going to be a bird, might as well be Randy Johnson.
Oh, that
was
thing
one of the
to
greatest
pieces.
highlights ever.
That is awesome.
Feathers everywhere.
I went down a rabbit hole last time I was watching the Braves play the Mets.
Who won?
The Mets, Brad Hand gave up a 3-run home run.
No,
but
he
they're already
didn't.
down 7-4. No worry about Brad. You're all good. But then the pitcher got hit, and then... Oh, no, a guy came to the plate. Sorry, a pitcher got hit. A guy got hit by a pitcher, and they came to the plate, and they started talking about it, so I looked it up on YouTube. This guy got hit right in the freaking nose. Then Bryce Harper got hit by... I don't know why these guys can stand there and just watch a 100-mile-an-hour pitch and they just get hit
If I
in
were
the
up
face.
there, I'd wear one of those.
Same.
Yeah, I mean,
That's a
don't even mess
no-brainer.
with it.
But if they turn,
John Olerud.
the ball's coming straight at him. So you watch
Terry
Bryce Harper,
Steinbeck.
it hits Bryce
The
Harper on
helmet.
the end of the nose. It just swipes by his nose. This other guy,
Olerud wore that helmet in the field.
In the field.
That was all time. Just a batting practice helmet.
He had
in
some.
the
I
field.
think he had.
He had a
I don't know,
cranial.
I think he had maybe like a soft spot on his skull.
Yeah,
from,
he
from
did.
something prior. But
There
So
was
one of the
something wrong with
stories
him.
is Ricky Henderson comes up to him. They were on the Mets at that point, and he comes up to Olerud. He's like, I used to play on this team. Guy did the same thing. Wore a practice helmet at first base. He was like, "Yeah, Ricky, that was me. We were on the Blue Jays together."
That's so good. I bet that goes on so much in like other football for sure. Shit like that. Guys have no idea that guy's been on his team for 3 years. Sees him
What
somewhere
about-
else.
Big Poppy and Dustin Pedroia.
Dustin Pedroia. I saw that.
What do you think his
That
name
can't
was?
be real.
Pee-wee.
Pee-wee?
He didn't know Dustin Pedroia's name was Dustin.
Well,
He's like, they've called my name out to now batting for 10 years. He's like, I thought your name was Pee-wee.
I mean, think about how many guys we know that like caddies, just nicknames. I don't know their real names. And I've known them for 15 years.
And you think in the majors, those guys sometimes they play together for a year. Sometimes they get traded a lot.
Yeah.
I mean they don't plus
that
if you're a star,
that's got to be a blast to play in the major leagues.
Yeah. So when I was a bat boy, my Chipper Jones story. I tell you this story.
Chippers.
So this is like when I would bat boy. I'm 10 years old, 9 years old, 11. The Braves were playing. And so when they played in Dunedin, we would have bat boys for the Blue Jays, and we would go and be the bat boy for the Braves. And I'm like, oh, they're my favorite team, so I'm going over there. So this is like Andrew Jones.
Oh, sick.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Andrew Jones, Chipper. I think probably Chipper was I think it was his second year. It was probably like in '94. But so I'm sitting there next to Leo Mazzoni, rocking back and forth, and Bobby Cox. And spring training they play a couple innings. And I'm like, hey, I want to get Chipper Jones's autograph. And they're like, oh, here's a pen. Take this and a ball. Go back, get me a cup of coffee. And I'm like, all right. So I go back there. I'm looking for him. There's no one back there. I get Bobby Cox's coffee, and I'm looking around, and Chipper Jones walks out of the bathroom butt naked, and he's like, hey kid, what's up? And I'm like, hey, you signed this? He's like, yeah, come on over. He signed my baseball. I still got it.
That's so sick.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Nothing like seeing your hero butt ass naked.
All those, that's that's all they would walk around. I'd walk around like covering my eyes.
Yeah.
You're 9-10 years old. You're like, what the hell's?
Yeah, you don't even have feathers yet.
It's right at head height.
Yeah, and they have zero shame with everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The locker room stuff is.
What sort of heat was he packing?
I don't remember. I mean,
Good thing.
Relative to when I was 10 years old, a lot.
A unit.
Third leg. All right. So what do you think the world looks like in 20, 30 years with this longevity stuff? Are we going to see like Bernard Langer? He's probably been doing this shit without like the doctors standing by him. But I think it's going to be like. Remember when Greg Norman was 59
he's
and he
in
led
shape.
the British Open or something, and then Tom Watson at 65. I think you're going to start seeing more of this. Not all the time,
well,
but the rare
those guys, they do stuff every day. So I mean, I try to do 250 push-ups every day. Greg Norman probably does that. A lot of those guys are doing something resistance training. So resistance training is key. Because when you get older, what can you do? You can't go from sitting to standing up. You want to be able to do. Peter Attia calls it what you want to be doing at 100 years old. The centurion, Olympics. So if you're doing some resistance training, a big thing also is protein. You need like a gram of protein per pound per day. I mean, that's, you need
a gram of protein.
So I'm 175 pounds, so I try to get 175 grams. It takes work to what
what did you used to be?
How much?
What was your peak?
What's a steak?
When I was
back there,
when I was
like, what? I can't eat that much.
170. So like, what? How much protein does three eggs in the morning have?
Eggs have about
close to 20, maybe.
Eggs
18
have about
to 20.
How the hell do
4
you
to 6
get there?
grams?
Protein shake, protein bar.
So a lot of it's supplement.
Fuck, I forgot my protein
chicken.
bars for
It's hard.
today.
You can't eat all that meat in a day. I mean,
Right.
but you have to supplement it. So you talk about like things to buy, like what to invest in.
Are
I mean,
you-
if you have 2 protein shakes a day.
Protein and fruit is becoming a very popular diet amongst men. What do you think about that?
Protein and fruit. Well, the problem, you can have a little bit of fruit, but fruit has fructose in it. I mean, if you're having, and what happens, you heard the phrase, I used to be able to eat that when I was younger, but now I can't, right? So what happens is we have this enzyme called phosphofructokinase. As you mature, everyone's enzyme level kind of
Language of origin, please.
Increases. Your body will see sugar, that what's in added sugar, and it'll convert it to fructose. When your body sees fructose, it stores it as
Even
fat.
if it's a natural.
Even if it's natural.
Yeah.
So what do bears do and all those animals that hibernate? They eat a lot of fruit because it has fructose in it. So this was an enzyme that primates acquired when they migrated from Africa to Europe. Food scarcity. So they needed to be able to, eat a lot of food because there wasn't any in the wintertime. So this enzyme came about, but we don't need it anymore. We don't have food scarcity. We have too much food toxicity now. So that's when you see added sugars and stuff like that, and carbohydrates and sugar. So as you get older, like, hey, I used to eat a bag of chips.
Yeah.
Now I do that, and I'm gaining weight. That's what's happening. It's from this enzyme. You don't need
no
that enzyme.
Get out of
That's me.
Carbs are the devil.
I think
what is the devil in diet?
I would probably say carbs and added sugars.
Okay, and then for fasting, is it?
So I do some time restricted feeding. So there's for diet, you talk about there's 3 levers of diet that you should be kind of pulling on, right? One of them is caloric restriction. Okay. Another one is time restricted feeding. So only eating 8 hours a day, 6 hours a day, noon to 6 or something like that.
Noon to 6 is pretty normal.
Yeah. Noon to 6 is a good one. And then another one is just like limiting some sort of food. So you could say, hey, today I'm not going to eat any carbs, or today I'm not going to have any fat. But with the diet thing, 80-20 rule, there's days you can break it. And, if you're going out to dinner and things like that, don't worry about it. That during the week you've stocked up enough.
But steadily, fasting, every day, from noon to 6, if you're doing 80-20, good to bad from noon to 6, is
that's a healthy diet.
Pretty good.
So you can take any diet and you'll lose weight on it. I mean, all of them do about the same. The one thing that I like about the fasting and the intermittent fasting is there's a longevity component. The longevity component is when you're not eating, your body activates there's this thing called mTOR, mammalian targeted rapamycin, and we talked about that medicine rapamycin. But think of it this way: when you're inhibiting mTOR, you're telling your cell, it's the contractor of the cell. It's like, hey, clean up all the crap that's in the cell. Let's use misfolded proteins, things like that, and stop using glucose that keeps coming in. So your cell is cleaning up. You're rejuvenating your cell. It's called cellular senescence. And so when all the hours that you're not eating, your cells are doing this. So the longer you can go and do it, the more that's happening. If you break your fast, you're going to start using glucose and all, you're going to start, breaking the fast is going to do it. But that's why I think the fasting is the longevity game. Yes, you can do caloric restriction.
It does. It releases ketones and stuff with that. I watched that series with Peter Attia was on a lot with Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, that's a good one. He'll have you
watch that. That's incredible. It's a 6-part series where Hemsworth challenges himself to do stuff, and he finds out stuff that, not to give it away, that he has certain things in his genes that might make him he
has ApoE4/4, so he has a higher risk of 12 times risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. And so, in my patients, I check that on everybody because I think you would want to know if you're going to get it or not. And there's ways to prevent it. Doesn't mean that you're going to get Alzheimer's. You have a 12 times increased risk of getting it. And there's good examples about siblings who have it. One gets it at 60 who, doesn't exercise, eats a lot of desserts, yada, yada. And then the brother gets it at 80.
So your health can kick in Alzheimer's?
Yeah.
No way.
Yes. Especially diet and exercise part.
If
you could bottle up exercise into a pill and he could sell it, you'd be a trillionaire. I mean, all the things that it does, activating, brain-derived neurotropic factor, all the things, increasing AMP kinase, all these things that...
Endorphins. Isn't that nuts?
It's
a free drug.
How much it's overlooked.
It's overlooked.
As treatment.
It's underutilized
because it's fucking hard. It's not easy. Especially
it's easy to swallow a pill. For sure.
It is.
But it's hard. And the hardest thing, which it's about me, but is consistency.
Yeah. Oh, if I get
it's
it.
It's I will be amazing for 2 weeks and I'll have a week off. I feel like if you take more than 2 days off, you're screwed. You can have 1 day off.
Yeah.
But
you try to do something each day. You don't have to run every day. I think the biggest thing that you find people do is I'm just running, right? Running doesn't do anything for muscle. I mean, when you're actually doing resistance training, that's the thing that you need to keep up with. And you can do things with bands, something for 10 minutes, some push-ups, some curls. You do something for that's cardio.
Yeah.
That's good cardio.
So limiting my alcohol to only drinking on days that end in what? That's not helping me.
Yeah, the alcohol thing is probably one of the most common things I feel like that kills people. I mean, I see it in the air every day, and the stories when I ask people
really
how much do you drink alcohol, and they'll say no, but then you have to rephrase it. You have to say because to some people, beer is not alcohol.
Oh,
it's liquor. And I'm like, listen, your liver has no idea whether or not it's Jack Daniels or Natty Light. It's got no idea. And then you ask them, do you drink? Oh, occasionally. And then you're like, well, okay, what's occasionally? I don't know, 3 or 4 a day. Then that's occasionally. It's all relative to people,
right?
Because you don't know what people are told. I mean, they see their dad do it, other people do it. But
thanks, Dad.
I've seen 29-year-old come in and die of acute alcoholic hepatitis.
Jeez, dude.
32-year-old, 35-year-old, 36-year-old.
It's
People
poison.
that come in, it's poison. It is 100% poison. And I'm not saying I don't drink, but I try to not do it as much as I can. And if I do it, it's going to be for an occasion.
Right. Occasion, that's what you're
and it's not like, oh, hey, it's Wednesday, I'm just going to have, I got nothing else to do, have a drink. Like I wouldn't say,
there needs to be a reason.
Wednesday's hump day. That's an occasion.
Celebrate.
Pricey's always got a reason though. When I ask him, I try to, I'm working on him. How many did you have this week?
I have none today.
Yesterday?
I had one.
I bet
one.
you had a big weekend last
It
weekend.
was 6 o'clock, and we normally have dinner at 6, but dinner wasn't until 6:30 because Lucy was doing stuff. So it was 6 o'clock, and I was thirsty.
Clean it up,
dude.
Lucy.
Have a Topo Chico or something. Oh,
Yeah,
and
sure.
what alcohol
You're
does
right.
to your metabolism too. I mean, it really changes your metabolism, how it processes energy.
Really?
Yeah, completely. Just it's not good for it.
I got a theory on this. So my brother put on the equivalent of 50 pounds from the day he turned 18, which you could drink at the golf club, which is 5 minutes from our house. Didn't have a license. Day 18 to 19, so 22 kilos, 50 pounds. So what he would do, he wouldn't really be drinking during the week, but Friday night, Saturday night, he'd go down the club with his mates, and he'd have the man was an animal. His nickname was the Sponge because he just sucked it up. One time he had like six schooners, so that's about the equivalent of about 9 or 10 beers. And he's like, hey, comes to me at the golf club. He's like, hey, Aaron, can you take me home? I got to get changed, have a shower. I'm going to the city to a concert. The man was sober. He came to our apartment at Statesboro. He had 17 Budweisers on like a Wednesday night when he flew in.
Bud Heavies.
Bud Heavy, 17. He had 24. I had one. There was 6 left in the box. And my roommate, Kurt Watkins, who just played the US Amateur, by the way, shout out to Kurt, comes, he goes, have you been drinking those beers? And I was like, I had one. He goes, holy fuck, your brother's had 17. And he's sober. He's in annoying Kurt talking about music. My brother loves music. So anyway, he put on 50 pounds. But
He
I had
drank himself sober.
just, we'd go.
Yeah, some people, if you're used to
but
it.
he would drink 8 beers or whatever Friday night, Saturday night, then come home and eat his dinner. So my mum had dinner every night at 6 o'clock. He eats dinner at 9 o'clock at night, heat it up in the microwave, pizza and chips. So he was eating after beers, and I had this theory that, once you drink tons of beers, it slows down your metabolism, so your body doesn't. Like, I don't know, how do you put on that much weight?
Well,
He wasn't eating any more food. He's just eating it after beers.
I mean, 17 beers, that's a lot of calories.
Well, that was
a
one
lot
of
of caloric intake.
3,000 calories is a pound, essentially. So if you want to like talk about like losing weight, you need 3,000 calories is a pound. So that's your caloric deficit. But the longevity game is working on diet, exercise, right? The big ones, right? The prevention. And then, if you have high blood pressure, like I'm targeting less than 120, I'm not saying I put everyone on statins, but I don't follow LDL now. We call it ApoB. That's what we follow. And so we get really aggressive on, reducing your cholesterol levels, but we follow ApoB, not LDL. LDL like resides on this protein called ApoB. So we measure that, and we know it's like, think of like ApoB. It's like you have all these tennis balls in your bloodstream, and they're all like bouncing around. Just by chance, some of them is going to get in between the endothelial cells, cause a foam cell, and that's going to become a plaque, right? And so usually at about 40, we'll do like cardiac CTs to see who's laying down more calcium, who we need to get really aggressive on. The traditional like thought of primary care doctors who have like 2,000 patients, sometimes 3,000 patients. They use these guidelines that are just, casting a wide net.
Yeah.
So trying to get individualized with people and say, hey,
bunch of labs.
You're 40 and you have a calcium score of 120. I know your LDL is technically normal, but I'm, for some reason you have some inherited form of you're laying down plaque. I want to drop your ApoB to what it was when you were an infant. When you're born, your LDL is like 30. There's no reason why it shouldn't be at 30 to 40.
And that's the reason, like, a lot of healthy people you see have heart attacks, right? It's this calcium. You can't see the calcium buildup.
And it's like, oh, I'm not going to start you on a statin until you've had a heart attack. It's like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, why? Why are you waiting for an event to happen?
Yeah.
So it's the preventative thing. And if you can get people in their 30s and 40s and really just coach them on what healthy habits are.
What about
and then sleep? We talk about sleep. I talked about it with the alcohol. Meditation's good, but sleep, I think, is an overlooked thing. There's a lot of people who like, hey, I function on 4 hours of sleep, I'm good. You think of famous people that do it, and we've talked about this.
Yeah.
Trump, Ronald Reagan, and Margaret Thatcher. Both of those, they bragged about not sleeping. So they sleep 4 hours. Here's the thing, though. They both got Alzheimer's. Okay, one of the risks is, you need 6 to 8 hours of sleep. If you're not getting your deep non-REM sleep, then that's increasing your risk of getting Alzheimer's. But because in non-REM sleep, all your glial cells, glial is glue in Latin, they kind of are in between your neurons. They shrink, your CSF goes in and kind of gets rid of all the junk that's been building up. So if you're not sleeping, you're not getting good non-REM sleep, you're not able to get rid of all that excess stuff. They've done studies. If you want to look up a podcast guy who's great on sleep, this guy named Matthew Walker, he actually did studies.
He's great.
He's been on Rogan. Rogan has good guys on his podcast. I'm not saying all the guys. Some of the guys on there are just out there to me.
Rogan's smart. He knows what brings attention.
He is smart. But he had Matthew Walker. He's had Peter Attia. Huberman's been on there. But they did lumbar punctures on people to measure their CSF fluid, and they would sleep deprive people. And so there's good data to support that. So getting good sleep.
My theory on Trump,
not drinking alcohol after 6,
is where Trump doesn't have Alzheimer's, and like basically anyone who did I only sleep 3 or 4 hours, they all die young of Alzheimer's. But Trump doesn't drink.
Yeah, that's what I think.
So maybe he gets like in 4 hours, he can get enough, because if, say, Maggie Thatcher was having 2 glasses of wine a night or whatever, that 4 hours on one side of your brain is none. It's zero, because it takes 6 hours to get out. But at least Trump has got a good baseline where he doesn't drink alcohol.
Yeah, the Iron Lady used to
but he's drinking.
I'm sure she did.
I'm
sure she did.
He's drinking Cokes and eating McDonald's too, though.
Yeah, his diet is poor. And I debate back and forth.
What's Bo Jordan drinking?
What would be worse?
He doesn't know what day it is.
Eating McDonald's or having a beer. And I have I would, honest to God, I would probably say having a beer would be worse than having a Big Mac. But
Wow.
I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, Big Mac's probably got 400 calories for starters. A beer's got 100.
I love hearing that. It makes, because I don't drink, so that's the one thing that's.
Well, I get good sleep, so because I drink.
No, but okay. So there's nothing too. When you have 8 drinks, a lot of drinks, and you wake up the next morning, you went to bed at 8 p.m. because you've been drinking all day, and you wake up at 8 a.m. 12 hours. You still feel tired. Well, one side of your brain or something hasn't even slept yet. It's been poisoned.
You get like very little non-REM sleep. You don't get the good deep restorative sleep, and the Whoop tracks it. And I've been wearing the Whoop for like a year, and honestly, since I did that, my alcohol consumption has like significantly dropped. I mean, I might have.
You got to drink with this hand, and it's telling you like.
I've had that many 1%
If I do it, it'll be a something during the day.
Yeah.
But on the golf course.
That's why I
Not
do.
me. There's first night of the guys' trips, I'm going 1% recovery. Just try and hang on for the next 4 or 5 days.
Pricey pulls some 1%ers, which
his signature move is the first night.
I'm like, Pricey, red is not good. It's like, oh.
I've been better. I have been better. It's a work in progress. Consistency. I think the number one thing for this longevity stuff and the whole of life is no, earth-breaking shit, but being consistent. Like Jocko Willink, everyone who's successful in doing this shit.
This is turning into a TED Talk.
Is consistency.
Yeah,
that's for coming to my
I'm not getting paid. But I can't do it. That's why I have so much admiration for people like you. You were a lot heavier than you were.
Yeah, dude,
I probably was like
Jack since I saw you last.
I probably was, going back 4 years ago, I was probably like 195, and I wasn't in bad shape.
No,
you're sloppy though.
So there's hope. There's hope over here.
Oh, there's hope. So I went to the primary. This is
Ozempic, dude. There's hope. There's always hope.
I went to the primary care doctor. This is like 4 years ago, and I walked in. He did, the spiel. I didn't tell him what I did. We just chatted, and he asked me some questions, and I left there. And my discharge diagnosis, it said overweight. I'm like, what? My BMI was like 25.9 or 26.
Yeah.
I was like 195. I'm 6'1", and I'm like, what? I'm overweight? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so then I started getting into like, I was doing some fasting and things like that. And I probably lost like 20 pounds doing it. And, you know, I got down to probably about 170. And then when you lose weight, you lose muscle mass.
Yeah.
And so then it was from there just kind of building it up. And just by increasing protein in like a gram, since January, I probably doubled my protein intake, which I'm sure everyone is deficient in. I put on about 9 pounds of muscle just by eating protein. I did not change anything. I'm like 4.5% body fat.
Animal.
If you exchange a gram of protein for a gram of carb, I mean, you're gonna the gains are huge.
That's all I'm doing.
Abs are made in the kitchen.
The template is there. You just have to.
You have to be. You know, it has to be a lifestyle. You kind of have to just do it. You have to be consistent with it and disciplined.
Travis, thanks for coming in, bro. That was very informative.
I was waiting for some more COVID questions.
My ADD.
You said you don't want to talk about COVID anymore. But
I'll talk about it with you guys. You know, there's a new.
You can come in whenever you want.
There's a new strain in Scotland. It's not Omicron. I was seeing some reports that they had like 400 people hospitalized with it.
Jeez.
You know, vaccine aside, you know.
I'm not getting.
Well, hey, they drink honestly, too much in Scotland.
You're a healthy guy, and you probably don't need another one, right? Well, you know, unless all of a sudden, okay.
I got waterboarded basically to get the first one.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You know, they never should have forced it down people's throats. No. It's unfortunate. You should have been able to selectively pick the people who are at risk. It's usually someone over 65 or people who are obese. Those are ones
fatties.
Risk. Yep. The I didn't say yep to that.
I did.
That's what Democrats do. They make you feel like you are unsympathetic or killing everyone else by not following their rules.
But I mean,
in a nutshell.
But you look at you know how many people died from it. But you look at the obesity epidemic. I mean, all these people needed to get vaccinated for Delta, and you know we didn't know what the true mortality rate was. I want to say it was hovering around 2%. SARS-1 mortality rate was like probably around 20%, which is insane. Mm-hmm. You know, 20% of people that got it died. Imagine that.
Nuts.
And I went to Japan, my wife and I, we went to Tokyo in like 2010. We were over there. People were wearing masks all over the place. This was right after SARS. And we're like, what is going on? We're like, what are these people doing? We have a picture of us with like masks on. We're like, this is so weird, you know? Yeah. But like they went through it. And then mayors with Middle Eastern.
N95 masks, right?
And no,
you were using the masks at work or just you put something over your face?
No, they were giving out like regular masks at the train station in Tokyo. And then MERS, the Middle Eastern variant of it, their mortality rate was 37%.
Jeez.
Those things...
Thank God that didn't spread.
Those things went away because right when you got it, you got sick right away, and then you most likely you died, so you didn't have time to go around and spread. COVID now is, you can walk around and it's like, hey, I think it's a cold, and then you give it to someone and they have some genetic predisposition to it, plus they're overweight, they get it and they die. So I mean, it's a lot easier spread, but the mortality is so high. And you think of it like this: what other virus circulates every month of the year? Like there's very few.
It doesn't take an off
do
day.
That. So it doesn't fit like any mold of any normal virus we have. Normally, like flu viruses, they live down in Oz, in our winter time, but they go back and forth. I mean, you might get influenza
They're having a bad
B.
flu season.
It's seasonal.
You get a cold.
So it's seasonal,
when it's cold, right?
But now it's like July, and it's like COVID. Like why is there a virus going around like that?
Cobia coming up the coast. It's like it happens only certain times of the year.
Yeah, but now with COVID, and it's just a frustrating, like just irritating thing. I feel like I'm stuck in the middle, of it being a physician and seeing people, because I have people that I know who have never seen anyone sick with it, and they think it's made up.
It's clearly not made up.
Clearly not made up, but there's still people who think that, because I've never seen anyone die from COVID.
Yeah, it's not faked. It's just it was so weaponized.
There's a lot of people out there that are just smart enough not to shit himself, and that's their limit. So that's where we're always going to have people on.
Well,
the ends.
You
of both
hate to
sides.
hear what's happening in Scotland, man. I know it was.
Well, I was just over in England, and we went to Cambridge.
Coming back.
And I was wanting to go in and look at one of the, like libraries at one of the, like King's College or something like that. And I went up to the guy and I said, hey, could we go in and tour? He's like, no, we haven't been able to do that. You probably give me a better accent, Aaron. He's like, sorry, mate, can't do that anymore.
Sorry, Governor.
Ever since that made-up Obama virus, and I was like, what? Made-up Obama virus? I'm like, he wasn't even, like, I don't know how you can, relate it to him, but, like, he thought that.
Thanks a lot, Obama.
That it was made up.
No way.
Thanks, Bin Laden.
Yeah,
Pretty
like,
funny.
I love that the world thinks that, because I get worried sometimes. You travel in the world, the main feed in all these airports is CNN.
Even how
you gotta wonder what kind of shit they're hearing.
Even
about.
how it was named. It started off as the Wuhan flu.
Mm-hmm.
And then that offended somebody, and we changed the name.
Because it's an opportunity for the left to make the right look unsympathetic. Well, that's the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
That's how
Lots of viruses are named from their origin.
The
Ebola
Kung
virus.
flu, that was
Ebola,
nuts.
yeah.
I mean,
All right.
Y'all
gotta go play some golf.
Yeah, we got a tea time. We're running late.
Yeah,
That's all right.
Who cares?
Exactly.
Go hit them wherever you want.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Cheers,
Dr. Travis.